Are you a Mac or a PC? It is one of the greatest battles of all time. Microsoft is constantly clashing with Apple to produce the greatest technology products and win over the masses. But how exactly are these companies doing in the economy? To further understand this question, I take the role of a Microsoft data analyst and perform an income statement analysis of Microsoft. As I mentioned in my voice thread, I am very interested in pursuing a career in data analysis or IT auditing. Interestingly, analyzing the income statement of a technology company such as Microsoft definitely gives me a taste of both career paths. So for the sake of this project, as a data analyst for Microsoft, my goal is to inform my boss about the performance of Microsoft in the economy and provide recommendations and suggestions based off the analysis on how to improve and make more profits. So I start off with a break-even analysis and net income analysis of both Microsoft and Apple so that we can compare the progress of both companies. Then I perform a scenario analysis and a solver analysis for Microsoft. So let's start off by looking at the 2015 income statements comparing Microsoft and Apple. So we will start off by going to the income statement analysis tab. Zoom in a little bit right here. So as you can see, the sources of revenue and expenses as well as the net income is summarized in these tables. Since both companies sell many different products at different prices, I felt it would be better to extract the break-even analysis based off the stock market shares outstanding. The sales per share works similar to the units sold, except it's in the form of stocks that people buy. So the stocks would be representative of the amount of money that the company makes. So in order to perform the break-even analysis, the most useful skill I found was truly understanding and experiencing the what-if analysis's data table function. Because of this data table function, I was able to extract a scatter chart based off of the table to visually represent the point I was trying to make. As a data analyst for Microsoft, I would be able to present this data to my coworkers and boss in a more efficient way. So here you can see two different charts, one for Microsoft and one for Apple, representing the break-even points for both companies. As you can see here, Microsoft's break-even is around 7. Oh, by the way, just to let you know, in the chart in the tables, I used 1000 to represent 1 billion. I did this using the custom formatting of the cells, and this was also another useful function because it made the data more representable and easier to read instead of having a bunch of zeros for the billions. So if you ever see a number like 8027, just know that it's actually representing 8.027 billion. So going back to this, we can see here I made a third chart combining both of the break-even analysis charts, the black one representing Microsoft and the white one representing Apple. From this chart we can see that overall, even though Microsoft had a more higher net income at 2015, Apple in the long run has been making profit faster since its break-even point reached faster, and it made more money overall since the cost of goods and expenses for Microsoft products are a little higher. So I would use a chart like this, and in my Microsoft company, I would show this and present this to my bosses and coworkers and let them know that we need to step up our game as Microsoft and try to beat Apple. No offense to Apple fans. The same thing can be seen from the net income analysis of both companies, in which the selling of shares for Apple is higher overall. Now to take this up a notch, I wanted to see how well Microsoft would do under different circumstances. To do this, I used the scenario manager function of the what-if analysis, as you can see right here. And with this, I wanted to see how well would Microsoft perform under expanded operations and reduced operations. So if Microsoft used a lot less money versus a lot more money, would it help the company or hinder it? As you can see, both of these scenarios ended up with a loss of money. So if Microsoft stayed in this range of production and cost and spending, it is in the right ballpark but we would still need to understand what Microsoft needs to modify of itself as a company to improve its sales. So here you can see the pivot table and a pivot chart of the same scenario that we saw recently. I always find time and time again that pivot tables and pivot chart functions are very versatile and always help me convey my data in a very efficient way. So you can see a visual representation here. When we increased and expanded operations, the income dropped, and if we reduced it, dropped as well. So I'd say in all of our lessons that we've had in this Excel class, pivot tables and pivot charts were the most valuable to me altogether, since it's very useful and it's very applicable to many different projects that we do. But as you can see, since both scenarios ended up with a loss of money, we need to figure out what Microsoft has to do exactly to change and improve and result with more income. To get a better understanding of this, that is when Solver becomes useful. Here I have the same table except one modified with Solver. These are representing a prediction over 4 years into the year 2018 of how Microsoft can progress and improve its conditions. In the original data, we have the gross profit, like recorded before, at 12.562 billion, but in this new Solver chart, we wanted to make the gross profit at 13 billion. That's a huge accomplishment that we want to achieve. So what would we need to modify in order to get this? Well, we used the Solver, and initially I used constraints to achieve this 13 billion number, but it was very hard for Solver to find a solution that way. So I let Solver just run its course on its own, and I found, as you can see from the green shaded cells, these are the factors that need to change from the original to the new. And if we look at the summaries, if Microsoft decreased research and development expenses and also decreased the cost of goods, hopefully it should end up with an increase in sales and non-operating income would remain the same. So the real question is, how would Microsoft achieve this goal to hopefully end up with 13 billion as the final, as described by Solver? Well, if I was an actual employee for Microsoft, I would propose and suggest different ways of achieving this goal. For example, I would try to search or find alternative, cheaper manufacturing methods for products, and I would also recommend different ways of free advertising, such as making your customers virally advertise via social media Microsoft products, and then that would hopefully require less research and development expenses. So there are more charts here understanding and analyzing the Solver results, and overall all these tabs are here, so if you ever want to go back to understand even more or recheck anything, it's all right here. So now we are done analyzing Microsoft as a company. This project was definitely an eye-opener for me and made me realize how much I enjoy data analysis and how I made the right choice as a CIS major and the right choice by taking this class. I hope you all enjoyed the presentation. You all have a good day.